Hi, have a good day to Dr. Tan Lee Wei. My name is Azila binti Muhammad Farouk, MC metric numbers MC2605422230. So today I'm going to present my slide, applying developmental and learning theories to improve early childhood educations. So I'm going to start with my first slide. So my first slide is the essentials components of ECE curriculums. So there are 5 essential components of ECE curriculum, so which is the goals and objective, the contents area, teaching strategies, and then the assessment method as well, and then diversity and inclusions. Okay, so the national curriculum we use at the national level is called Permata. So the list of component of ECE curriculum, the most first component of the ECE curriculum is the goals and then objective. So the goal and objective is defined as a learning outcomes for the children. So what we expect for the children. So the goal is to help the child development in knowledge development, personality development, language skills, social skills, communication skills, and emotions development as well. So the Permata and then the National Preschool Standard-Based Curriculums, they are more emphasized on holistic child development through a play-based learning methods. So these ECE curriculums, they are emphasized on multiple learning domains instead of teaching the subject differently. So the domains compasses of 6 strands, which is the communication, spirituality, attitudes and values, humanity, physical development, science and technologies, and child personal competence as well. So this integrated learning, they are enabled for the child to have the freedom to explore and to do their own experimental activities. So they have more opportunity to interact with their friends, to explore to the activities based on their interests as well. So they can connect an idea across a different real life experience through the classroom activities. So the effective program of ECE, they use a child-based approach, inquiry-based learnings, and they use a play-based learning. So for the child's overall, the teachers will encourage the children to use their all 5 senses, which is observations, imitations, explorations, trial by and error, and applications to their surrounding as well. So the process of determination of child minds is conducted by 3 core methods, namely explorations, experimentations, and then experiences through the classroom activities. So the child's progression is being measured through an assessment. So the assessment is through a formal exam, Q&A session, which is questions and answer sessions, and then the documentation samplings, and then the children workbooks collection as well. So through this method of assessment, we can monitor the child's progression based on what do they learn, and then based on the result of the learning session as well. So this method, it provide a continuous progression of child learning progressions. Okay, so the quality curriculum must emphasize inclusions and diversities, respecting the children's different backgrounds, religions, linguistics, and cultures. So most importantly, in Malaysia, we are a multiracial country. So the children came from a different background as well. They have a different religions, different language, different culture as well. So all the curriculum components, they are intertwined to create an optimum and comprehensive curriculums to meet the goals and objectives for the curriculums. So I'm going to talk about the next slide, which is the explorations of various childhood education models. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the Montessori models. So for the Montessori models, the contribution was to set the child free by letting the child become an agent, or by letting the child to become a little scientist of their own worlds. So the child are given a specialized learning materials for them to explore the activities, such as break activities. So this Montessori approach, there are 3 stages for the child development, which is the observant mind, which is the unconscious and conscious, the sensitive periods, and then the childhood stages as well. So for Montessori approaches, they are more focusing on child self-disciplines and then individual works. So the teacher acts as a guidance instead of an instructor, so they let the children to choose their own activities freely. So the children are allowed to explore their own interests and curiosity. The strategy of this approach is to develop a child development by granting a freedom and nurturing responsibilities to the child. So it's this model approach to encourage positivity towards the child, and is encouraged to fostering independence and then self-discipline for the children's development. And then the next one that we had is a Reggio Emilia model. So the Reggio Emilia model approach that the teacher are also as a learner. So they provide an environment and opportunity for every children to act in a way that is sufficient to act and to structure a knowledge. So for the Reggio Emilia, the teacher will conduct an activity based on what the children wanted to learn, based on what the children interest. So these principles, they view the child as a competent, curious, full of knowledge and interest to connecting to the world around them. So in Reggio Emilia, so these learning models, they are more emphasized learning through social interactions between the teachers and then the parents as well. So the environment is the space, the environment where the space within the school and environment is considered as a third teacher. So the power of documentation is to collect the documentation regarding the child's progression. So they do the assessment by collecting the information, the observations and learning, and emergent curriculums where the teachers are required to observe and listen to the children's interests. And then lastly, the role of teacher is as a guiders, researchers, as a documentators. So the Reggio Emilia approaches, they nurture the domain of child development through inquiry and collaborative learning experiences. So next time, I'm going to go to next model, which is the high scope approach. High scope approach is a curriculum that are widely used in the Western country. So this approach is based on the principle of active learnings and positive interactions within the adults and the peers, aligned with 5 essential elements, which is active learning, adult-child interactions, learning experience, daily routines, and the assessments. So for the high scope curriculum, it's largely influenced by the Piaget cognitive development theory. So this high scope model, they have a plan to do review. It's a sequence in which the children, with the help of the teachers, they initiate a plan for activities of projects. So work in the learning centers to implement their plan. So the teachers will actively support the child thinking by asking open questions, by doing open discussion sessions, and they are collecting child data using a tool called child observation record, COR. So the high scope approaches, they promote more into self-independent language development, the social skill, the decision making skills, and then the communication skills. So now let me pass on next slide. So next slide is a comparative analysis for these 3 models. So the similarities of these three models, which is the Montessori model, the Reggio Emilia models, and then the high scope models, they are focused on child learning center, and each single model they are support hands-on learning and experimental explorations. These all three models they are support holistic developments, and they are support a children's child relationship. No, sorry, they are supporting a teacher-child relationships, and then they are supporting a learning through a real-life experiences, and they are supporting child's explorations of interest instead of a passive instructions. So like these three models, they are seeing children as a capable and curious learner. So the observations are based on assessment, so it's common for these three models to collect and observations based on assessment. So but despite of those similarities of this model, the core philosophy of this model is different. Okay, so for the Montessori approach, they are more focusing on child individual independence and self-disciplines, while the Reggio Emilia, they approach on community connections and self-expressions, which is involvement of parents and teachers, while the high scope approach emphasizes of academic readiness and connective planning. So for the Montessori approaches, they are focusing on project based on individual work using a specialized learning tools. And for the Reggio Emilia, they are focuses on collaborative learning, fun and creativity, and they are focusing on more project work based on what the children interest. And and for the high scope is based on active learnings and positive interactions with adults and peers. So the other differences for these three models is differences in curriculums. Okay, and for the curriculum of the high scope models, it's come from two sources, which is the child interest and then the key experiences. So the childs and teachers will initiate the learning activities with structured flexible curriculums. So the Montessori model is they followed a sequence of curriculums using a specific learning materials, while the Reggio Emilia, they are using an emergent curriculum adopted from a child interest. So the teachers will listen and will observe the child's interest before conducting or before planning an activities. So the teacher roles for the church model also different. Like the Montessori, the teacher act as a facilitator instead of instructor. So in Reggio Emilia, the teacher as a constructor or documentator or a researchers, and then in high scope model, the teacher act as an active learner. So in my opinion, the high scope model is more appropriate for diverse educational setting because it's more structured, and then the active learning strategies are flexible, and then they support a consistent learning while it's flexible, so it can cater all the children needs as well. So the weakness of these three models. So the weakness of the Montessori is most of the Montessori schools, they are more expensive because the learning materials is specialized for the children, and then the children become more independent, so lack of social skills, so is developing more sense of freedom. So it's very hard for the children to cooperate in work in a group in the futures. So for the high scope, the weakness is there is no direct instructions by the teachers. So the curriculum, there is no specific curriculum or suggested activity as well. And then for the weakness for the Reggio Emilia is it's not a formal model. So with defined method, with teacher certification, no, it's not a formal model educations. because it's based on what children needs. It's based on what the children interest as well. So with the Reggio Emilia, there is no a set of curriculum that specific for the teaching method as well. Okay, so for the strength of the tree model, so the strength of the Montessori is each child has their own unique individuals. So they start to become more independent at the early age for the Montessori approaches. So the Montessori student, they enjoy the freedom within limits. So the student are supported become an active seeker. And for the high school approaches, the strength of the high school approaches is the teaching approaches is based on research base. So it's extensively tested as well. So there is a lot of support and training development through the high school foundations. So it is a child-centered based learning, which is the activities are determined by the children interest. So it's an active learning where the children works in a group. So it's increased the child's social skills, community skills as well. So it's utilized the planned do review sequence. So it can emphasize the development for the whole children, and it encourage a conflict resolution as well. So it enhance the logical thinking of a child as well. So the strength for the Reggio Emilia is the ability to use the teacher as the environment as a teacher. So these approaches teach the collaborations and getting children to learn how to do work together on a project. So the children learn through creating deep and lasting relationship with the world around them. So the children will learn grows from their engagement with the rich and varied materials offered in their classroom as well. So the mix of long and short-term project with students with deep understanding of the subject matters. So for the Reggio Emilia approaches, the children's the relationship between the teachers and the children are more stronger. So the teachers collaborate with the children in order to complete their classroom activities as well. So the next ones, I'm gonna talk about the conclusions of my presentations. So in my opinions, there is no specific models. There is no specific model that can be emphasized on a specific curriculum as well, because if we after we go through all the details, I can see that we need all those three models to be integrated into our curriculum models. So for example, the Montessori models, so it focuses on child independence, it's focused on child confidence and self-discipline as well. So while the Reggio Emilia, it focuses on collaborative inquiry. And then the high scope, they are focused on the social skills and parental involvement as well. So the cons of these three models is that the Montessori models, they need more high skill and expertise teacher, and then they need a specialized tool. So for the Reggio Emilia models, so they are required a parental involvement and a lot of documentations from the teachers. So it's required the teacher's expertise, the teacher times and effort as well. So I would say, in my opinions, the high scope model is more appropriate for the diverse education setting because it's more structured, and then the active learning strategies are flexible and support consistent learning, which is flexible enough to cater the children needs. Okay, so in a multiracial country like Malaysia, we should integrate these three models instead of using one model. And then we know, like, we have to create a curriculums that are based on the models and theory. because these models and child theory developments, it can provide some guidance to the teachers, it can provide some guidance to their parents as well about their child development. So some children, they are more suitable into a Montessori approaches schools. Some students, they are more suitable with the Reggio Emilia approaches schools, and some might suitable with the high scope approaches model as well, high scope model approaches as well. So the theories, learnings and development, the theories of learning and development, it will affect on how teacher treats the children, how they structure the environments, and how the teacher will plan a teaching method for the children in order to help the children to develop their domains. So that's all for my presentations. Thank you to Dr. Tan Lin Wei.